Today on the Surviving the Human Experience podcast, we have another informative episode with our friend philgeorge. Phil is coming back onto the show, and we are going to talk about stress today because that is such an important topic. But before we dive in, if you're new to Phil's work and you haven't heard episodes with him before, which I hope you have because he's been on a few times, Phil is a clinical biochemist, certified personal trainer, health coach, and lecturer. He has his own radio show, Wellness Wave Radio. He also has his own show on Dreamvisions 7 as well. So if you haven't checked it out, make sure you do. And he conducts seminars that are focused on health and wellness all throughout New England. He also offers virtual seminars. So if you're not local, that's okay. He can reach you. He's got a lot to share. And he has a health coalition group that he works with so that he can continue to expand his mission of sharing all things health and wellness across the globe. So welcome back to the show, Phil.
Yeah, it's great to be back. We just did one, so we're doing another one.
Yes, we're doing a part two. We've talked about heart health recently, and now here we are with stress. So I want to dive right in because I know you have a lot to cover. So let's get started.
Well, stress, obviously, we need stress, and
Mm.
there's good stress. Really won't even say there's good stress and bad stress. There's just it's stress that we can control. Obviously, you have to have stress to run away from the tiger and the lion and things like that. But what happens is if you have stress all the time, it can create a myriad of problems. And that's what this is going to be really about is how stress hurts you, but also what ways to control it. So, and again, and this is really kind of plays a lot into your wheelhouse too, Kristen, where you're dealing with people in terms of just keep quieting your mind and things like that.
Mhm.
Uh-oh, it's not working. Oh, here we go.
So, for our listeners who are on the radio, you're going to be hearing us talk. For those who go to the YouTube channel, you will see the PowerPoint slides that Phil is going to walk us through.
So again, I'm a clinical biochemist. I've got a radio show, TV show. This is my TV show. I'm also on YouTube. The health disclaimer: this is for medical information purposes only. Should not be taken as medical advice. Always seek the guidance of your medical professional. So one of my side things I like to look at is something called evolutionary biology.
Okay.
So anytime I look at anything, ask myself, Kristen, does it make sense in terms of evolution? In other
Mhm.
words, we have two prime directives, Kristen, and as a smart monkey. Number one is not to die. Try
Yeah.
not to die, Kristen.
Yeah.
Number
Yeah.
two is to procreate. We want to keep we want to keep the gene
Hmm.
pool going. So those
Hmm.
are two really hardwired into us. And I looked this up once. We're the only species that actually commits suicide. I don't think there's any other
Wow.
species that does that. Think about it. They may do
Wow.
it for odd reasons, but we intentionally choose to take our own lives. But most other primates, most other I don't know any other primate that actually
Hmm.
kills themselves. So
Hmm.
again, that's one of the things is we basically we don't want it. We don't want to die. So stress is one of the ways that we're dealing in terms of not to die. It
Hmm.
ramps it up. So again, this is ancient stress. This is hardwired into us as an animal. It's funny because zebras they run from lions, but you and I, Kristen, we're running from our emails. Too
Yes,
many emails.
I love the image that you put up there because I never really thought of it in that way, but it's true. Emails and text messages, right? It's all of the technology communications that are like piling up on us.
And Kristen, we're the only humans that stress about things that haven't even happened yet. We're worried about it, or we
Hmm.
stress over things we did in the past.
Oh, yeah.
And what does
Yeah.
Eckhart Tolle say? Live in the now, live in the Zen,
Yes.
live in the
Yes.
Zen. Okay, and your ancient stress response is really it reacts to modern problems. When we were cave people,
Hmm.
we weren't worried about what our boss is going to say to us or anything else. We're just worried about where our next meal is coming from. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
is the wolf at the door? That type of thing.
Right.
And again, Kristen, and I know this relates to you. Your brain treats the deadline like a dangerous predator because I know you have a lot of deadlines. You have a
Yes.
lot of deadlines, Kristen, right?
Yes, and it's haunting us, right? Like, we have to get there. Yes.
So this is actually brand new. You know, people that know me, I'm crazy. I get up at early hours of the morning. I'm looking at all different studies.
Okay.
So they found out that we talked before about oxidative stress, where it damages your body, just like rusting a car. You know, it's
Mm-hmm.
oxidative stress. And there's something in our base that creates ATP, the energy molecule. It's called NAD. And what happens when you're stressed out, you're reducing the amount of what's called NAD, which makes ATP, which is our energy molecule, mitochondria, the powerhouse of the cell. So what happens with Kristen, I know you have a lot going on, so I know you're dealing with a lot of stress, and
Mm-hmm.
you're a holistic practitioner,
Hmm.
so I know you know about breathing techniques and things like that to keep your
Hmm.
stress levels down.
Yeah.
But I know, suppose you have an exceptionally stressful day. Are you dead by the end of the day? Are you really tired, worn out?
Yeah, typically.
Because your mitochondria, this NAD is not being produced to make the energy. So you've
Mm,
gone through. It's like if you have a remember that Energizer bunny from
yes.
walking along, and he's at the end. He's tired because
Uh-huh.
you've gone through those batteries. Your mitochondria is worn out because
Mhm.
that stress. It's like you running away from the lion. Okay, and that's why you've become stressed. So we talked. The mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. So there's you, Kristen. There's your mitochondria after a long day, and you're just your mitochondria are worn out, Kristen.
I was gonna
This
say,
is
just laying there, hoping for, it's like running a car on fumes and you're just trying to get to the gas station. You're just trying to get there.
you got no energy. I
Yeah.
recommend this book to anybody. It's by Robert Sapolsky. He's an evolutionary biologist. He teaches evolutionary biology at Stanford, and this is actually the textbook they use at Stanford, but it's very readable. And
Okay.
it's the name of the book is Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers. In other words, stress and health. And he talks about this. Great book to read. I'll give you a good example of what it is. So, Kristen, what happens? I want you to identify as this poor zebra. Okay, the
Mm.
lion's chasing the zebra. There's two possible outcomes. What are the two possible outcomes?
Death and making it out alive.
There you go.
Hmm.
What happens? Option one: the zebra doesn't escape. The zebra is gone.
Yeah.
Option two, the zebra's happy, right? Eating the grass, everything.
Hmm.
Is the zebra chill? Is the zebra chill? He's eating great coconut. He's happy. The zebra's happy. Do you think that zebra is thinking about that lion that just chased him?
Yeah.
He's
That's
not.
no, no.
He's chill,
He's completely forgotten about the entire thing. Yeah,
right?
he's like, oh,
He,
that happened. Didn't even give it a second thought.
the zebra is zen. The zebra is zen. He's living in the now, right?
Yeah.
Eckhart Tolle, live in the now. It happened. I'm letting it go. I'm not worrying about it anymore. Okay, this is a trick
It's
question.
making me think of I'm trying to remember which movie it was in. I think it was in Hangover, where the guy keeps saying, "But did you die?" And he was referring to somebody who was having like all this stress, and he just kept saying, "But did you die?" And I was like, "Oh my gosh!" It made me think of that when I saw the zebra being chased by the lion.
And again, on the seminars, I ask questions. This is from my seminar on this.
Uh
I
huh.
know nobody knows the answer to this, so I'm not going to ask you. But why do zebras have stripes? It confuses predators because what a predator does, the predator is going to zone in on one thing. They're not looking at the whole tribe. They also look for the weakest in the pack, that can catch. So the zebras have evolved to have these particular stripes. It confuses the predator because he doesn't know which one to go after. That's why zebras have stripes.
Oh wow.
Okay, easy one for you, Kristen. What's the primary stress hormone?
Yeah, it's the cortisol.
You got it. So
Mm-hmm.
cortisol goes up, and you get a lot of stress. You're wearing out your mitochondria. You're stressed, and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm going to back off on this. So what happens is this: Have you ever heard the expression "that person peed his pants" or "pooped his pants"?
Hmm.
You get really, really afraid.
Yeah.
The reason for that, Kristen, is this. let's go back to Mr. Zebra. Okay, so Mr.
Okay.
Zebra, all of a sudden, he's had a nice big meal and he's eating the grass and he's
Hmm.
happy.
Hmm.
And let's say he's got his eye on this cute female zebra. Okay,
Okay.
so he's got all his reproduction hormones going. I want to have sex with the zebra.
Hmm.
I'm happy. I'm eating, and all of a sudden, that he sees that line and he starts running. His
Hmm.
only thought is, "I got to escape." What happens? This is evolutionary biology. All of the blood goes into his muscles. Okay, to run away.
Hmm.
He's not worried about eating anymore because his stomach's full. He's going to get rid of. He's going to poop. He's going to poop his pants
Ah,
and
okay.
he's going to pee his pants
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
he's, excuse the expression, he's scared shitless. Literally
Hmm. Yeah.
scared. That's where it comes from.
Hmm.
Scared shitless. You're
Hmm.
going to get rid of everything because all of your energy, all of that chi goes into your muscles. All the energy
Hmm.
goes into the muscles to run away. He
Right.
forgets. He forgets about that cute zebra, girl zebra, right?
Hmm.
Shuts down his reproduction system. No energy going to reproduction.
Hmm.
You think he's worried about catching a cold? No. All of his immune
Survival.
system, all of the immune system shuts down. Everything is shut down. He's only got one thought: I'm going to escape from that lion.
Hmm.
So what happens is when you're stressed all day, what happens is you shut down your immune system. I'll give you a perfect example. I had a client, young woman, maybe her late 20s, early 30s. She was referred to by somebody to me in terms of her health, and she sat down and she wanted to get healthy and stuff like that. And and I said to her, you know what, your problem is not the nutrition. I can see in your face you're stressed to the nines.
Hmm.
She looked at me and she says, "Where'd you said that?" She says, I go home and I kick the dog when I get home because I'm stressed all the time. My husband's telling me I'm stressed all the time. She came down with shingles at 30 years old. Shingles is an old person's disease because your immune system starts going down. And
Hmm.
what happens is we have these viruses inside of us. We have something called the Epstein-Barr virus from
Yeah.
mononucleosis, cytomegalovirus. These exist in us all the time, Kristen. So what happens is when our immune system shuts down, the virus becomes opportunistic, which means, oh, no immune system. We got none of those macrophages eating us
Yes.
up. We're going to take and we're going to come down with shingles. And that she come down with
Hmm.
shingles. So the reason why people come down with all of these diseases is because they're stressed all the time, Kristen, and
Hmm.
then the virus takes over and they get sick. Or even normally, if you have a bacteria, something like that, your body, your immune system can take care of it. Your T
Hmm.
cells and your B cells go in there and take care of it. But if you're stressed all the time, Kristen, you don't know the difference between the lion chasing you and you get deadlines. Or if your boss is yelling at you or something like that, you're stressed
Right.
all the time and your immune system shuts down. So
Hmm.
there's basically there's basically they believe two forms of cause disease. One of them is what they call the germ theory, Louis Pasteur, and the other one is basically where you're just your body is not strong enough to overcome it. So you want a strong
Hmm.
body to
Hmm.
overcome. Why some people get sick all the time, other people don't. There's nutrition involved, but there's also the stress involved.
Hmm.
Oh, I'm going to go this way. So we have what's called the autonomic nervous system. Okay, there's
Hmm.
two parts. They call it sympathetic. People get confused in this all the time because sympathy sounds like a good thing, but it's not a good thing. So the sympathetic nervous system is the fight or flight. You want to run away. And then there's the parasympathetic, the rest and recovery. So you only can be in one or the other. So what
Hmm.
you want to be as much as possible, you want to be in the parasympathetic, the rest and recovery. But again, Kristen, if you're playing tennis or you're playing volleyball or something, you want to be in the sympathetic because you want to be running away, or you're running away
Right.
from the line, or if you get into a boxing match, Kristen, right? You want to be in the sympathetic. So they both have their uses, but you don't want to be in the sympathetic all the time because you're going to burn out. You heard the expression, you burn
Hmm.
out. You're burning out from
Yes.
your job or whatever.
Yeah, and I would say that, I don't know what the percentage is, but in the world we're living in currently, and the pace that we are running, especially in America, between work and kids and school and just all of the American lifestyle, I would venture to guess most people live in the sympathetic nervous system state most of the time
right?
because you
And
have
that's
all of
and that,
these things, right, bombarding you.
and that's one of the reasons why we're such a sick nation,
Hmm.
because we're in a go type of situation.
Yeah.
And this is the type of things you deal with all the time, Kristen, with clients, is to
Hmm.
get them into the zen, get them relaxed. Different techniques you can use, breathing techniques,
Hmm.
all different things you can do to basically get into the parasympathetic. And you can switch from one to the other pretty quickly. A lot easier to switch to the sympathetic, but if you have the techniques which you teach, if you
hmm
have the techniques, you can jump into the parasympathetic.
Yeah, absolutely. And it just made me think too, looking at our younger generation, and I don't know, you may touch on this a little bit later on in our discussion, technology, the impact that things like social media are having on the nervous system, right? A lot of people wake up and the first thing they do, instead of having a moment of gratitude or looking out the window to see if it's a beautiful day, they check their email. They're in bed and they grab this phone, and they're like, oh, I got to check my email. I've got to look and see what's happening on Instagram. I've got to see what's happening on Facebook. And even though you think you're just going through motions of looking at things, it really is activating this response from your body because you're looking and you're getting all charged. You're like, oh, I can't believe so and so just posted this, or I can't believe this happened, or you're seeing the news and it just automatically throws your body into this space before you even get started in the morning.
Right. And that they say that's one of the problems we're just saying with kids now. They're looking on there and they
Yes.
post something and they get a negative comment back. What does
Hmm.
that do?
Yeah,
Cortisol. It gets up.
absolutely.
And the
Hmm.
other problem is, unlike the zebra that runs away and forgets about it, we
Hmm.
ruminate, right,
Oh,
Kristen?
we do. Yes.
We ruminate. We think
Hmm.
about it.
Hmm.
That person said that, and you think about it all day
All
long.
day.
Okay. So I'll give you a good example is road rage is a good
Hmm.
is a good example, and I was
Hmm.
very much guilty of this. So my own personal experience is, and again, I like to say to people, you really control reality. It's not what happens out here; it's what happens in here. Good example: Jesus Christ crucified him, spit on him, did all this thing. What did he say? Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. So this is the whole thing. And the other one, I think it was Eleanor Roosevelt that said, no one can intimidate you or make you angry without your permission. So what would happen is this: let's say you and I are in a room together and you get really mad at me, Chris, and you punch me right in the nose. Okay.
Hmm.
I could hit you back, I could yell at you, or I could do nothing. Okay. I have
Hmm.
that choice.
Hmm.
I have a choice. How am I going to react to this situation? What
Right.
am I going to do? And what happens, this doesn't happen overnight. I'll give you a good example. My son, Matt, he and I both, I've worked on it. I got a very short fuse, quick temper. I get aggravated very easily. So when I used to drive, people used to drive me crazy. They'd pull in front of me, and then what happened, right? You get me beep the horn, right, Kristen? You get mad and you sit there and you perseverate. That jerk,
Yes.
he pulled in front of me. That's what the road rage happens. Then they pull over, they pull out a gun and they shoot somebody over this, or they do something stupid because they're
Yeah.
so angry. They got no
Hmm.
control. So what happened with me is that I used to love to have. We have over here. We have Dunkin' Donuts, and
Okay.
my favorite thing in the world was a latte. But I was very very particular how about my latte, a double shot latte.
Okay.
So, and the Dunkin' Donuts I went through, most of the people there, they barely spoke English. So when I would pull in, I would ask for the latte, double shot, and invariably they'd get it wrong. They get it wrong. And so what happened as I'm driving through, again, the definition of insanity, same thing over and over again, I would basically, before I even pulled up and put my order in, I would start getting angry, Kristen. I know they're going to
Wow.
screw it up. I know that. And sure enough, and I had to go back inside and check it. Then I had the epiphany one day when I'm driving in. I say to myself, Kristen, why am I allowing myself? Why am I doing this to myself? They're
Hmm.
not doing it to me, Kristen. Oh, they're precipitating it, but I'm allowing it to happen to me. Then
Yes.
one day, Kristen, I said, I'm not going to allow this to get me angry anymore. When I was pulling up before I put my order in, I was looking at the birds, I was looking at the sky, and I was just just zenning. I was, you know, and that made a difference.
Yeah.
And it took me about a month. And every time I could feel that stress coming inside of me, okay, I would say, I'm not going there, Kristen. I'm not
Hmm.
doing this anymore.
Not doing it.
I'm not
Yep.
doing it. I'm not doing
Hmm.
it anymore.
Yep.
And that's what happened. And the same thing happened. What happened when people would pull in front of me and do stupid things. When I taught my son to drive as the driver, brand new driver, you know how nervous your kid is, doesn't know what to do, and I'm teaching him how,
Right.
and people are beeping their horn and stuff like that. And then what I did is I reframed it. Anybody pulled in front of me did stupid things. I imagined that was my son in the car. I reframed it. And
Like
now,
that.
or that's a grandmother, or that's a person that's having a bad day. So I reframed it. So I changed the way I looked at the world. You know what I mean? And
Like that.
that cut off so much of that anger that I had and that impatience that I had,
Hmm.
reframing it, changing the way you look at it. I'm not going to allow that person to get me upset. I'm not going to allow this to happen to me. And anytime I got upset with something outside of my control, I say to myself, why am I allowing this to happen? I'm in control of reality, not that person.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So
And I
that
love the way you were able to do that because I think that's so important, right? It's our job to do some self-regulation, and there's so many tips and tools that you can use to do that. And really, in actuality, the other person that you're getting upset about, they're not bothered at all because it's not happening in their body, but we're getting ourselves all worked up. So I love the examples you shared on how you were able to just kind of shift your mindset. That was huge.
And I had a friend at the gym like that, and he would say to me, I go home, people drive me crazy. I said, look,
Hmm.
you're an alpha male. Why are you allowing those persons to make you upset?
Yeah.
And he said it finally hit him. He says, I've been going through years of therapy. Nobody ever told me that. But
Yep.
that's what it is. You're in control of everything that happens to you because it's how you process it. It's not,
Mhm.
it's not, it's not what that person does.
Yeah. Ooh, that's powerful. That is really powerful. And it's interesting that you said that that he just hadn't really heard it that way. And sometimes you can have all of the tools lined up for you, and it just takes that one person to make you stop and pause and say, "You're right." Like he probably had seen some of these techniques or heard this other places, and then when you said it, it just clicked. And that aha moment just changes everything.
It's funny because what I said to him, I said, "Look, I want you to. I want when you go home, I want you to, get a stop sign, and I want you to put it on your thing. And every time you saw that, I want you to look at the stop sign, and I want you to say, I'm not going down that road." He says, "I'm going to do something better. I'm going to put the sign Phil on there." So to remind me. And I've
Yes.
done this with a lot of people, and it's amazing. Nobody's ever said this to them, Kristen. And I found that, and I say, you know, traffic drives most people crazy. I mean, they steam's coming out of the ears, and they're just like, ugh, and they're stressed. They're stressed all the time. And when they realize, I never thought of that way. I'm really in control. I'm not going to allow this to upset me. I'm just not going to do it. It may not
Absolutely.
happen. It's not going to happen right away, Kristen. They
Hmm.
depend on what you read. 28 days develop new, whatever that is. But there's an expression called Hebb's law in neurology. It means neurons that fire together wire together. When
Hmm.
you develop a certain protocol, I get this later on, but you have a part of your body. It's called the limbic system, and a
Yep.
part of that is called the amygdala, and that's the fight or flight. So
Hmm.
when something happens, you trigger this. That releases the cortisol, all the stress hormones, and you're ready to run away. But it stays on there. So what happens? But what happens is the limbic system is also created to the prefrontal cortex. So what happens is it goes up there. You can shut it down by thinking, I'm not going there. And what happens? You develop that two-way system. So all of a sudden, the stress hormones go in here to the limbic system. You shut it down. Once you do it over and over again, it becomes almost instantaneous. It
Hmm.
takes a while for that two-way
For
thing.
that to,
Yeah. So
yeah.
it's just like, Kristen, if you're going through a forest and there's no path, you could go into the say you develop the path.
Hmm.
It's like
Hmm.
it's basically it's mind body connection. So
Uh-huh.
if you ever learn how to play tennis or golf, after a while the swing becomes automatic. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So you're developing that pathway where your prefrontal cortex is shutting down the limbic system. The limbic system is the stress is the stress system.
Hmm.
So if you're in that parasympathetic system, what happens? You release growth hormone. You can't release it if you're in sympathetic. Remember the zebra? Everything's shut off. You're also releasing DHEA. DHEA is a precursor to all your hormones, testosterone, estrogen. You're making that melatonin, the sleep hormone. It's releasing
Hmm.
that. It decreases your heart rate and your blood pressure. So, Kristen, what happens when you get upset? What happens to your blood pressure?
Goes up. Yeah.
Oh, I got to tell you a really interesting story. So, there was there was this guy, and what he did is he used to reupholster furniture for doctors' offices.
Okay.
And what he did was he would go along and he noticed something. He noticed that the people in the cardiology office, he had replaced the thing on the armrest, the leather part, more often than the other offices, and he couldn't figure out why. That's how they developed the Type A personality, because the people, right, they're
You're
going like
holding
this.
it. You're like,
"Ah."
"Ah."
So what happens is the Type A personality, the way they go, 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 and they're nervous all the time, they're in that constant sympathetic state and they're not in the parasympathetic state. So your
Yes,
body is basically what it's doing. It's like I know, Christian, you have a Lamborghini, right?
absolutely. One in every color.
So what
Yeah,
happens? You run that Lamborghini on full throttle all the time, even though that's your Lamborghini, Kristen.
right.
That eventually is wearing out. You're running all the time. You know the tachometer on a car, it goes. You can't run it all. Eventually, you're going to wear out that motor. So you're
Yeah.
wearing out yourself from the inside out by constantly running full throttle without
Mhm.
giving yourself a chance to take it easy.
I felt that message, Phil.
Road rage, right? You know that, and you go over there. And so what happened? Something occurred to me of what I have, even though I'm a lot better than I used to be. I would notice people put, he said, "What a jerk!" He does this, and eventually, but again, wasn't that crazy. But it builds up. It's like the straw that broke the camel's back. So what happens? Even though 12 other people did stupid stuff before you, that 13th person, you blame them, right? And you
Yeah,
take
makes
you take
sense.
everything out on that one person, get those other
Uh-huh.
people. You see all those people not as people, but as
Right.
cars that have pissed you off at this point
Yeah.
in time.
They're
That's why people.
obstacles getting in your way of what you're trying to accomplish. And most of the time it's not even that serious. Like you're not you're going to the grocery store, maybe you're meeting somebody for coffee, like it's or you have an appointment. It's really not even that serious, but all of a sudden it becomes a big deal. Yeah.
I also saw a study. It was interesting how people are so much self-centered, self-reflective. They asked thousands and thousands of people, "Are you a good driver?" Like 90% said yes. Are other people good drivers? No. So they only see themselves.
Yeah.
Everybody else is awful. I don't think it's
Uh-huh.
ever happened to you, but has anybody ever done something really stupid to you, pulled in front of you, beep your horn, and then they give you the finger?
Yes, that has happened a few
They, they,
times.
they don't see it. They don't see that they're doing anything wrong. They
They
just
don't.
see. So, I
It
mean,
usually makes me laugh. I'm like, all right, well, I hope you get where you're going. Like, I'm just always humored by people who get so upset on the road. But I also do now recognize, especially being in the DC area, that it can be pretty dangerous. Like, we recently had a case happen where somebody, I guess they had a fender bender on the highway, pulled off to the side, and the guy actually stabbed her to death. And I was like, what is going on with people that they get to this point of such anger that they're literally harming, where you see a lot of people pull out guns and just start shooting each other. And I'm like, really? Over getting to some location? It just, yeah, there's a lot more I think that goes into it than just, the actual whatever happens on the road thing. But oh man, yeah, it's crazy. So I always am very careful if somebody acts erratic and starts flipping you off and cutting in and out, or my favorite are the ones that jump in front of you and then they pump on their brakes real quick to see if you'll hit them. I'm like, seriously? Yeah.
again, going back to the original point, you're in control of reality. So
Yes.
whatever you want to do with that. So again,
Yes.
it's some people, if you're like, I know DC, I think it's the worst traffic in the world. I heard about that because I was in DC a couple of
Probably.
times,
It's
and
pretty bad.
it's bumper to bumper. But what do people turn the radio on, listen to this, instead of nothing you can do about it.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing you can do about it. You can only control what you can control.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else you got to just leave whatever, and just make the best of
Agreed.
the situation.
Yeah.
Okay. You can't put the genie back in the bottle. So what happens is once you get angry, and you get all those things sit there, and they just sit on you, and they just eat you from the inside out. It's very, very hard. That's why we talked before about the prefrontal cortex to the amygdala. Get that two-way hive going where you're able to shut it down before it happens. I'm in a position now where I can feel the stress coming on, and I'm able to shut
Okay.
it down because I can
Mm-hmm.
feel it. And what do I say to myself, Kristen? I'm not going down that road.
Not going
I'm
there.
not.
Yeah. I love that you give that because that's such a practical solution. It's not anything complicated, didn't cost you money, you didn't have to go anywhere to get it. You literally just tell yourself, not doing this, not right now. And it shuts it down. Like it's such a very practical, feasible tool that's immediate. So I love that you shared that.
Yeah. So again, it may take you 28 days. It may take you, but it's repetition. It's developing that neural pathway to where that the analogy I like to do too is the devil and the angel on one thing.
Hmm.
So in a way, you got the monkey mind over here, and what
Yes.
happens is that angel is just shutting. Okay, calm down, Mister Monkey. I'm going to give you a
Hmm.
banana. Just go back in your cage. We're not gonna let you out of the cage. Keep that monkey
Right.
in the cage.
Yep.
Okay. So, Kristen, what common this is a little tricky mental health condition results from long term stress?
Ooh. Well, I have a laundry list. Is there only supposed to be one?
Big one.
I would say anxiety.
Well, anxiety, yeah, but your anxiety leads to depression, right?
Depression.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You're constantly
absolutely.
anxious. You're constantly anxious because remember you're shutting down all the good things, all the good
Hmm.
things in your body.
Hmm.
Uh, so extreme stress shuts down the immune system. We talked about that. The physical reactions, again, are part of the extreme stress system.
Hmm.
Uh, and this shuts down during extreme stress. And we talked about involuntary urination during high stress.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, it's almost like the body circuit board just malfunctions, right? When you go through that high stress, it's like the body doesn't know what to do. Nothing operates the way it's supposed to. And it's interesting because you see people go to the doctor that live a high stress life, and you could be a high stress person and used to stress, but at some point the body gets to the tipping point. And so you'll see the doctor say, "Oh, yep, it's this condition or it's this, whatever. Here, take this med," and not even looking at the real, again, root cause. You and I talk about this all the time. And it could be that, something's mimicking a heart attack, but maybe it's anxiety or panic. And it's because of extreme stress, but nobody really takes the time to go that deep and have that conversation. But stress is a big deal. I mean, they say it's a silent killer and people don't realize it, but it really is.
Right. And we talked before about how it damps down your immune system. So,
Hmm.
so for the listener, the thymus gland is basically it's right behind your rib cage, and this shrinks as you get older. So the thymus gland secretes something called T cells, which are immune cells. They go on, they munch things up, and do what they're supposed to do. Well, as you get older, this shrinks. Okay, so that's one of the reasons why people get older have more tendency of sickness. A younger person gets sick, bounce right back. Older
Yeah.
person, not so much because they're not making as many T cells. But the other thing they found is that also with stress also shrinks it even more. That's
Mm-hmm.
again the reason why you come down with shingles and all kinds of viruses that you can have before. We talked before, you're stressed all the time, your immune system gets shut down and everything else. So the thymus gland again, goes down with age and goes down also with stress. Again, I talked about this, me driving through the Dunkin' Donuts and just thinking about it, it made me stressed. There's me, see my face right there, Kristen. Oh no, you're driving through. So again, I could just put on tunes and be happy.
I'm just so glad the Phil I know is a really happy, jovial guy. I've not experienced this alleged road rage Phil that you're talking about. And I'm glad I haven't met him.
No, you would not have met me back then. In fact, it was awful. I was awful to go out with my now wife and my son. If the waitress didn't come over right away, I would leave. I mean, no
Yeah,
patience for anything. I was just very short fuse and everything else. So again, it doesn't. I was hurting myself. I was hurting other people too because I was a
sure,
nightmare to go out with. I mean, it was
sure.
I was just awful.
Yeah.
There's something else, and they say this is actually kind of the ultimate in terms of progression. It's something called metacognition, and this is something where you're thinking about what you're actually thinking. You become the third person.
Mm-hmm.
So, in other words, you sit back, and this happened with the Power of Now, Eckhart Tolle, where
Sure.
he was in the very first beginning of his book. He talks about he was going to commit suicide, and he was sitting there thinking about committing suicide, and then he had this epiphany, and he said, "Who is the I that's thinking about committing suicide? Who's the I, and who's the observer?" They call it the observer mind.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something you want to think about is exactly think about not non-judgmental, Kristen.
Mm-hmm.
Thinking about what you're thinking about. In other words, it's the same thing. This happened with me with the metacognition going through the Dunkin' Donuts. I'm thinking,
Mm-hmm.
why am I thinking this? Why not judgmental? Oh, you're a jerk. You're a this. This is
Right,
not
right.
judgmental. Why
Yeah.
am I thinking about? Why am I getting so upset?
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, it would be like me. What I did is, it's the same thing. My son is on the spectrum. He's brilliant. He's got high
Mm-hmm.
functioning autism, but he's very anxious,
Mm-hmm.
and he's a perfectionist. And if he
Okay.
does anything wrong, he will go off on himself. He will just swear at himself. I'm an idiot. I don't know why I did this. Okay, good example. Let's just say he was somewhere and he knocked over a dish and it fell
Huh?
on the floor.
Yeah.
I'm an idiot. I should be punished. Blah, blah. He went off on him. And
Mm-hmm.
I said to him, Alex, I said, if I knocked over the dish, would you yell at me? No. Well, you got to think about yourself the same way. You got to look at yourself outside. I made a mistake. This is something, that I shouldn't have done, but everybody makes mistakes. I'm going to give myself a break on this. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You got to look at yourself non-judgmental and just find out. In other words, if you had a friend, you're seeing yourself as the third person, right? You're looking at that person and saying, if I were to give this person advice, what advice would I give myself? This is
Yes.
this is metacognition.
Mm-hmm.
This is the next step towards enlightenment, where you're able
Mm-hmm.
to self observe.
Absolutely.
One of the
Yeah.
things they say, whether you believe this or not, when they do people with what they call past life regressions, where they bring them back,
Mm-hmm.
they say one of the things that happens after you die is that you go up and you have something called the council of elders, and they're
Uh-huh.
there, but they're not judging you. You judge yourself. And what happens is you see your entire life like a screen ahead of time. And they say one of the things that happens to you, Kristen, you see every person you've wronged in the past. You created pain. You feel their pain. You literally
Mm-hmm.
feel the pain you inflicted. You also feel the joy doing positive things. So you're
Mm-hmm.
you're looking at yourself objectively and saying, okay, I did this wrong, I did that wrong. You can do that on earth right now. You can sit back and look at it, and you had an interaction with somebody and say, and be objective. What did I do
Mm-hmm.
wrong? What did this
Mm-hmm.
person do wrong? What could I have done better? My sister has a good expression, and every time anything bad happens to you or good happens to you, say, what can I learn from this interaction? What can I
Yes.
learn? You know,
Yes.
this is where the metacognition comes in, thinking about thinking. So what you're doing is, again, you recognize it as mental events, not as facts. How did this happen? You're observing what's happened, and this is really where you evolve as a person and how you can improve. In other words, it's just like if you're playing tennis or something, or a coach is coaching you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Christian, you did a great job on that play, but you know what? You fumbled on this play because you weren't paying attention, Kristen, blah, blah, blah. So you have to learn from this.
So I love that you brought this up. So when I think of metacognition, I always think of it as, observing your own thoughts, right? Which is exactly what you said, thinking about thinking. So why am I thinking what I'm thinking? Just like you said, is this really my thought, or is this some limiting belief that is running through my mind? Is this some fake false narrative that I adopted at some point in my life? And that creates this, oh, you're so stupid. You shouldn't have done this. You're not worth this, that negative inner critic. And I think it's so important to then turn around and challenge that inner critic. Like, is it really true? Or are you just thinking this thought because it's a pattern? And if it is, then we need to do some pattern interruption. But I do think, your examples were spot on. And just like you shared with your son, it's that challenging that inner critic. A lot of times we just don't challenge our inner critic. We just say, oh, okay, I thought it, so it must be. But just like you shared, if you said that about your best friend, like, would you do that? No, you'd be like, seriously? And if your best friend asked for advice and they were having those thoughts, you'd be like, that's ridiculous, and you'd go through why that was not true. And we don't do that with ourselves. We just simply let these thoughts come in. So we need to make sure we're checking these thoughts and removing them, just like you did with road rage. You say, I'm not doing this today. Do the same thing with those wild and crazy thoughts. So, but okay, just my little rant I had to
No, no,
share.
that's perfect. So goes back. Let's go back to what your previous statement. So what happens is the analogy I like to make is your brain's like a computer. You have
Huh?
your RAM drive, which is basically operating right now. I'm looking at it.
Yes. Yep.
I'm looking at my computer. We're looking at this stuff, but behind the scenes, Kristen, there's a world going on that we don't know. My hard drive is
Absolutely.
doing something. My RAM is doing something. My video card's doing. We don't see any of this stuff. All we
Yeah.
see is I'm typing in. That's your conscious mind, Kristen.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very small part. The subconscious is running the show. Behind us, we're not doing any of this stuff with these slides, Kristen. This is all being run in the background.
Mm-hmm.
What
Mm-hmm.
happens is the Jesuits said, give me a child to the age of 60, up to, give me a child up until the age of 6, and I'll give you the man or the woman. Because what
Okay.
happens is when we grow up, we're one of the most vulnerable of all primates.
Mm-hmm.
Monkeys can climb trees. We're born. We're a lump of clay. We can't do anything. Okay, we rely on our parents to take care of us. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so what happens is, in order for us to survive, is what we do is we observe. We're in what they call theta state up to the age of 6. We take
Okay.
everything in. We believe
Mm-hmm.
everything that happens. There's no right or wrong. When you look at your mother and your mother's looking at that dog and she's frightened, you'll become frightened of dogs. You
Mm-hmm.
see what's dangerous. Then what happens up to the age of 6? You may have a bad parent. You know what your parent says to you? You know what, Christian, you're never going to amount to anything. You're ugly. You're this. You're that. You don't. You believe that stuff. That's hardwired into your brain, and then you're doing it.
Yes.
I know you run across this all the time. Why do men or women say, "Why do I keep marrying these losers? Why do I keep marrying these alcoholics?" Because you believe you do not deserve to be happy.
Absolutely. And you
What
go for the familiar.
your program is, I don't deserve to be happy, so I'm going to self-sabotage.
Mm-hmm.
Every time I have a chance to succeed, I'm going to find a way to screw up. You must hear this all the time with clients. Why is it every time I have a chance to get ahead, I sabotage it? Why do I do all these stupid things? Because in your subconscious, you basically believe that this is running the show, and that's why
Mm-hmm.
you're an actor playing out the part that's hardwired in there. Okay,
Yeah.
that is who you are. So what you're saying is you can do it through hypnosis. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
where you go into the subconscious and you say, you're not a bad person. You're
Right.
not that. There's nothing wrong with you. So you're saying this metacognition. You're saying the other thing is, you probably heard this a lot of times when a kid, when their parents divorce, they blame themselves. What did I do? What did I do to cause a divorce? And you know
Right.
what? I should be punished for that. I should be
Mm-hmm.
punished for that because it's
Mm-hmm.
causing me. So a lot of times what a hypnotist does is they'll send you back and say, "Oh, this is the reason why. Because I
Mm-hmm.
was told at a young age that I'm not worthy. I'm not any good about this, this, and this." Some people do not believe they deserve to be happy, and they'll sabotage themselves in
Yeah.
order to do it. So a
Yes.
it was funny, not funny. I think I mentioned to you, my first marriage, my first wife was actually certified. She was mentally ill. She wound up paranoid, schizophrenic, and everything else. Had an awful time with my son. When I married my first wife, I mean, my life was shit. I mean, it was awful. And my wife said to me one time, which was pretty profound. She says, "Do you think you really deserve to be happy?" She was wondering, am I really self-sabotaging? And I had to really reflect on that. Do I have
Wow.
some bad, programming in my mind?
Yes. Yeah.
Fortunately, I don't. My mother was single, but she raised us great and nothing like that. So I didn't
Hmm.
have any of this bad programming. But what you're saying, Kristen, you have to look into what you're programming. I mean, do you really believe it? You know what? I am a good person. I do
Hmm.
deserve to be happy, and
Hmm.
I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to let my parents say these things to me to force to make me an unhappy person.
Agreed. Yeah. And I think that's so important that you did have to go back and you had to check those thoughts, right? And say, yeah, why am I allowing this behavior? So absolutely spot on.
Okay, so this is uh, one thing I say on my beating of all my shows. I hope to give you at least one suggestion that will make your life a little better. This is huge. If you can get into this metacognition and get in, when you start thinking these thoughts, why am I thinking this? And if you have to see a therapist, yeah, like Kristen, and she can bring you back to these times when what happened. You got to undo the programming. Like you
Hmm.
have to hire a technician to go into your hard drive and redo that hard drive, clean it up, get all the bugs, get all the viruses out of there that's sabotaging your life. What's sabotaging your life?
Hmm. Yeah, I
Okay.
agree. And it does, it takes that self-reflection and it takes some real hard, honest looking. I mean, we tend to overlook some things for ourselves too. We're like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. But no, sometimes we do have to kind of peel back the onion.
And we talked about this. Stress causes shingles. We talked about that. Your immune system shuts down.
Hmm.
We talked about this. We talked about the limbic system. This is kind of what it looks like. You got the prefrontal cortex up here. Remember, it's going back and forth between this.
Hmm.
Back. Okay, the amygdala. Okay, it's the response, a perception of this anger, fear, and stress. So the amygdala is going out there, and you're freaking out over here. Okay, so chronic stress can lead to fat storage normally in your gut. Okay, you're storing it because remember,
Go Homer.
you're stressed. What happens is because you're stressed, you want to store the fat. So you're gonna store it in your gut.
Hmm.
Okay, and the other thing stress causes inflammation. Now they're calling it inflammation. As you get older, you cross inflammation. Inflammation causes all of these problems. You name
Hmm.
it, stress causes it. So the other thing most doctors don't order, you want to order a test called the high sensitive C-reactive protein. It's the measure of chronic stress. You can email me, philgeorge@charter.net. I can get this ordered. Very important to know if you're inflamed from the inside out.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we talked about where you're perseverating over and over again about things, and you're just constantly in a state of stress. You're worrying about that boss yelled at you, or your wife yelled at you, or somebody yelled at you, or you get the bad thing from social media, right? Where they're
Hmm.
calling you an idiot, and you're sitting there, and you're in this constant state of stress.
Hmm.
Okay. Now, this is from my seminar, I had actually Dr. Emily Cabrera on, and she's a PhD psychologist, and she ran us through basically these different breathing techniques. But I'll
Okay.
give you at least one real easy one. It's called the birthday candle breathing. Just ready? Go with me. Ready? Take a deep breath
Okay.
in, blow out the candles. By doing that, you're shifting from the sympathetic to the parasympathetic. Very, very easy to do. The other thing is you want to do is when they call it yoga breathing. You put your hand on your stomach and you
Hmm.
and I get pretty good at this, Kristen. So what I and they, it supports the oxygen flow. reduces racing thoughts. It grounds you. And what I'll do is when I'm driving, again, I'm not as crazy as I used to be. But
Mm-hmm.
sometimes, Kristen, you're going to a certain place and it's kind of stressful. The cars are pulling in and out, and you can
Yes.
feel the stress.
Yes.
Now I can just do that little bit of breathing. I just and
Okay.
it shuts down that sympathetic system. So you
Mm-hmm.
get into the habit of just breathe out, just breathe out in terms of so you can kind of do this. The other thing that Emily did is the other thing you can do is you can put your hand on your chest and a hand on your breath, and you breathe into your belly, not into your chest.
Yes.
This goes into evolutionary biology. Your brain. There's a really good book called "The Body Keeps the Score." If you're breathing, hyperventilation, right? That's bad. You're breathing because
Mm-hmm.
it's danger. I'm going to hyperventilate. So if you're hyperventilating, you put yourself into that stress mode. If you breathe into your belly, it tells your brain everything's cool, everything's chill. I got nothing to worry about. So you
Mm-hmm.
can just put your hand here and see what you're breathing into, and that'll help. And what she did, Dr. Emily did is this is Dr. Emily Cabrera, and she basically did. She had when people she called it a box breathing. In fact, we had a police officer and he said they teach them this, and she was also in the military. It's called box breathing. I'm not going to get into that, but you can look that
Yeah.
up. There's all kinds of breathing techniques you can do. But as I mentioned, you want to get this high sensitive C-reactive protein done. You can email me. We can get this done through FullScript. And if your doctor doesn't want to order it, I do this every 3 months when I get all my different blood tests done. I want to know what my inflammation is from the inside out, because
Uh-huh.
this causes all the inflammation. So by doing that, you can basically know what your inflammation is. A really good way, again, of doing this. Omega 3s are really good too, but you want quality fish. You want to be careful about that. You can email me again on that. I'll give you fish, because a lot of these supplements, especially omega 3s, they can have mercury in it. They can have plastics in it. So I have trusted sources that make sure none of that stuff is inside of it.
Mm-hmm.
I talked about omega 3. There was a really interesting thing done on this, and they found out that the average American index is very, very low, and in Japan it's 8 to 11%. So what happens if you have low omega 3? Your longevity goes way, way down. And they
Okay.
found out the reason is because people don't eat the correct amount of omega 3s, either through fish oils or through just eating quality fish. And they also found out that the Japanese live much longer than we do. They have much longer health span, and also health span, also lifespan. This is me, Kristen. I'm really proud of this. There's my name right
I
here.
love it. I
There
love
we
it.
go.
I
I
love
just
it.
Okay. So my omega 3 is what is it? 10.05%. So that's in a really good range. It only goes up to 14. So I get this done every 3 months. It's called Omega Quant. You can email me. I can send you over to them. And it measures my omega 3, index to my omega 6 index. Omega 6 is the inflammatory one. And
Mm-hmm.
my omega 6 ratio was really, really good. So I keep a close eye on this. And I eat fish a few times a week. And again, other thing, I get it from a really good company. It's from Alaska, husband and wife team. And if you email me, I can get you $50 off your first order, Kristen. $50
Nice.
off your first order. And again, this is from wild salmon, not farm raised salmon. That you give them a bunch of bad stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
I can help you with this, with your omega 3 score. So you want to keep an eye on this. This keeps your inflammation down. It helps with your mental health. Omega 3s are so important. So this is what you want to keep your eye on.
Yeah. Whew. Good stuff, Phil.
Okay, there we go. These are not regular salmon, Kristen. These are super duper salmon.
Super salmon.
You know how happy that salmon is, Kristen?
I love that. I love it.
You can email me, philgeorge at charted.net. I'll get you $50 off your first order. And you want to be eating the salmon on a regular basis. And this is really good for you. Has a lot of other positive things. How much time we got left, Kristen?
We have about 5 minutes.
Okay, what else do we got here? Oh, the other way, triglycerides are really, really bad. Omega 3s lower your triglycerides. Remember, we talked in the beginning about the omega 3 index, the HDL triglycerides. This
Hmm.
also can lower your triglycerides. Triglycerides are the worst kind of lipids. You don't want this in your system. So this not only helps with your brain, helps with everything. So again, a big takeaway and that what happens with the salmon producers, husband and wife, local team, and they check out, these are happy salmon. So you can get this, lowers your triglycerides, helps with your brain health, helps with the inflammation. So this is one huge takeaway. And if you can, you want to get your supplements as much as possible from natural sources. But I also you can up it with omega 3s from fish oils. You got to be careful where you get it from because a lot of them contain mercury. I have a source; they have no mercury. They're independently tested. So again, you want omega 3s for that. Again, fish oil is got to be careful because a lot of them got bad stuff in it. Test, don't guess. I test everything. I'm a biochemist. Is what I do.
Hmm.
Uh, this is kind of the end. So the other thing is they found out xylitol is really, really good for your teeth. And when I did the seminar, I gave out prizes, and one of the prizes was this chewing gum that you chew. Hydroxyapatite, puts it in. So if you're looking for this, you can email me. I have special links to this too. So one other thing I did on this. Molecular hydrogen, something else that's really good for you. Again, you put in your water. You want interested in this. We can do a whole show on this sometime, Kristen, on
I was
molecular
going to
hydrogen.
say, yes, absolutely. That
There's a
sounds like
lot.
a great topic to cover. Absolutely. Well, Phil, you touched on so much. I think one of the key takeaways here is, making sure that we are mindful of the physical reactions that are happening in our body and the stress that we're under. Maybe, taking like an inventory of that stress and finding ways that we can counteract or at least modify some of the responses to it because that is within our control. Um, are there any, main messages you want our listeners to know before we wrap up this episode?
Right. The big one, again, omega 3s. I can't, healthy sources. You can email me on that. Really, really
Okay.
important. It covers so many different things to make your life so much better.
Mm,
But the metacognition, the other big one, think about what you're thinking. Why are you thinking the way you are? Do you have bad programming in there that's not your fault? That was
mm,
put in there earlier. You deserve to be happy. The other thing, find a purpose in life. What's your purpose in life? What do you want? Do you want to help people? Do you want to coach people? Do you want to help people? Whatever that is. So you need a purpose in life, and be very cognizant of your thoughts. Why are you thinking what you're thinking? What's holding you back? Make an inventory, like you're saying, Kristen. What's holding you back? What can you change? What can you change in your life to really to help you go forward? And the other thing is actually Colonel Sanders started Kentucky Fried Chicken in his 60s. And
mhm.
now with one of the, he started, he said, I can't live like this anymore. People started businesses in their 60s and changed everything in terms of things. So it's never too late to start. You want to go on and be aware why you're thinking what you're thinking. If you change your brain, you change your life.
Yeah. Whew. Important, powerful things. Phil, tell our listeners how can they get in contact with you if they want to work with you or talk further, find out about all these great tests, where to find the super duper salmon, all of it.
Again, easy. philgeorge at charter.net. Like it sounds, PhilGeorge at charter.net.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, we have come to the end of our hour together. So, for our listeners, thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this episode of the Surviving the Human Experience podcast. And until next time, be well and stay blessed.
Bye, Kristen. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Phil.